As a social enterprise, I often like to say we're trying to do the two hardest things in the world together. Firstly, found a sustainable business where 80% of startups fail in the first 5 years. And secondly, actually trying to change the world, a world which is often not very amenable to change. And yet, if you can pull it off, if you can create a model that produces both financial and social outcomes, then the world is truly your oyster and you have the possibility of creating change at an incredible scale. Start Some Good is a crowdfunding platform exclusively focused on projects that make the world better and helping social entrepreneurs and not-for-profit raise the money they need to be more innovative and create more impact. So if you're launching a social enterprise, you need a couple of things. You need a business plan, or at least a business model. We never really had a business plan, which is to say we never really wrote it down as a fancy document. But we had a business model. We knew exactly how we were making our money and who we were making it from and what we needed to do to achieve that. But secondly, you also need an impact model. You need to be pretty clear on how you're creating social impact. Normally that either means that you're delivering your products and services or creating your products and services in a new way through more sustainable supplies or manufacturing processes, or that you're creating employment for people who otherwise struggle to find employment, or you're redistributing some of your profits in order to support good works run by a different organization in a different part of the world. For us, it was all kind of bound up together. We create impact by helping more innovative social change projects raise funds, and then we make our money by keeping a little bit of those funds, 5%, when we help them reach their goals. So Start Some Good began with a phone call from a former colleague of mine, Alex Budak. That phone call was in, I think, October. By November, we had a technical team lined up, and we ultimately launched on March 1, 2011. So only about 5-6 months since that first phone call. In some ways, I wish we'd worked a bit slower and a bit more deliberatively in order to kind of prepare for launch and work with our potential customers to refine the platform. But equally, I think there's a lot to be said for moving fast when the inspiration strikes. And I certainly like to say that if you saw the first example of our website, you would know that it is very much an example of that common saying in the startup world that if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you're moving too slow. Well, I was embarrassed by our first product, but thankfully we've managed to move on from that now, and I'm quite proud of the current platform you'll see at startsomegood.com. So to launch Start Some Good, we needed two main things. We needed, of course, a platform that was well developed and well built that people would want to use, and then we needed a group of campaigns to actually go live with us. To gain the former, we worked through Alex's, my co-founder's relationships, and secured a couple of guys he'd gone to university with and who'd subsequently founded a web development firm to build it for us on an equity basis. One of the attractions of founding a for-profit social enterprise rather than not-for-profit is that you start off with an asset from day one, which is equity in the business. And that if you can convince people that that might be worth something someday, you can trade that for quite a lot of human capital. And for the second, we worked through both of our relationships to secure and convince projects that they wanted to launch with us rather than to use any of the existing platforms they could already see. Well, I have to admit, it never even occurred to me to try and raise money into the business before we launched. Bootstrapping was my total orientation at that time. We did raise a little bit of money through a crowdfunding campaign ourselves on a different platform, of course. Not so much because we really needed the money, but because we thought we should have the experience of actually running a crowdfunding campaign before we told everyone else that we were experts at helping them run crowdfunding campaigns. You often hear that you need to design a minimum viable product, and that's exactly right. What is the minimum service or product that you can deliver to your customers while still making them happy? But I think you also need to design a minimum viable life. What I mean by that is to be really clear with yourself as to what you need in the short to medium term to sustain yourself while you go through this entrepreneurial journey. Could you live on 2-minute noodles for 6 months? Would you be willing to move home with your parents, or could you live in the garage? You need to ask yourself these questions up front so that you don't essentially drain your energy within 3 months from having to make more sacrifices than you want to make. And if you can align your business so that it serves your minimum viable life, you have a sustainable platform to let the business grow at its own pace. So plan to work hard, expect it to take longer than you want, and be clear on what you need and don't need to make it through that phase. I think there's a bit of a fad at the moment for pivoting, and I actually think a lot of the success stories you see in innovation and social entrepreneurship are those who resisted the urge to pivot too soon and stuck with their vision, gave it time to germinate, gave the world time to catch up with them, and then realized amazing success a little bit later on. And certainly that's been the journey for us. I think if someone had told me exactly what would be involved and how long it would take, I probably wouldn't have begun. But now I'm here, I'm glad I had all the experiences we had along the way, and it's really refined us and I think made us a better company and me a better entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is a long and windy road, and we've certainly had some significant ups and downs. We've had to slightly change our orientation a couple of times while staying very true to our core focus of inspiring innovation in the social sector. We've shifted our revenue model, our business model, and we've rebuilt our website a couple of times to better serve that community. Throughout that, we've come close to going out of business a couple of times. We've also had some significant breakthroughs where we raised money or won awards. And I'm pleased with where we are, but we have a long way further to go. But there's nothing else I'd rather be doing. There's never been a better time to start something, so get out there and make your idea happen. We'd love to get your feedback, so please leave us some comments.